Back again here, around town with Paul J. Savoni, and here's my wonderful guest, Katie Frazier from Dalton and Feingold.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's always nice to see you, Katie. So, something that we saw in these COVID times, these past two and a half years, were with sellers, these sell buys, right? Because the sell buys are the sellers are selling their primary home and they're needing to purchase something on the other side. And because of the market dynamics and how competitive everything was, we were finding that buyers were willing to give the sellers all sorts of time. And what we ended up having to do was craft what we call a use and occupancy agreement or a rent back, so we can kind of speak to some of those differences here. But you have been the expert for sure with use and occupancy agreements, and they've worked really well with my clients and the people that we mutually have represented. And there's of course all different reasons why, and there's all different little timelines. So I'm going to let you speak to some of the differences and the timelines and why that was important to a lot of our clients these past few years. So
I was going to say, prior to COVID, we would see what we call use and occupancy agreements.
Periodically, probably.
Yeah, periodically. Yeah. It became very regular over the last couple years, and especially as the market became less and less inventory, sellers were a little nervous trying to find that next property.
Right.
And so we started to see use and occupancies being used as a tool to provide a little bit more flexibility and also a little more security to sellers that needed maybe a little bit more time to secure a place.
Correct.
Traditional closings are 30 to 45 days. Some extended closings make the timeline a little bit farther out, maybe 60 days. And then sellers were able to add on another 30 days or so to those closings to give them a bit more time to find that purchase.
Yeah.
We also found that use and occupancies were used for much shorter time frames because with a buy-sell, typically you're purchasing and selling on the same day. So that means you need everything moved out of your home on the day that you're moving into your new property. And we have to, in Massachusetts, wait for the deeds to be recorded and money to exchange hands.
For one piece to move to the next piece, right? Yeah, and it takes hours.
It takes hours. And so to provide a little more flexibility, a little more security for everyone, we can even do a use and occupancy for a couple days. And what that would look like is the seller could enter into use and occupancy on their sale to allow them to stay in the property, let's say 5 days after closing.
Yep.
Yes, and there'd be terms set forth in that agreement to protect both the buyer and the seller. There'd be language just confirming that this is not a tenancy, because in Massachusetts there are strict tenancy laws. But there would also be security, like doing a holdback of seller proceeds until the seller has vacated. That way, the buyer has some comfort and some protection on their end.
Yeah, and I think we saw a lot where sellers just need a few extra days to move out, to get their movers because they're trying to logistically get movers there. Sometimes it was because they needed more time to find suitable housing. And also there are sometimes costs involved, right? There's usually a holdback, to make sure that there's no damage during this period of use and occupancy or rent back. Sometimes there's carrying costs, right, that they have to pay if it's like 30 days or 45 days, because the buyers are incurring cost, right, to carry their mortgage if financed. And so the sellers have to contribute to that. So that's another piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely.
And, I think we found that these agreements have worked pretty well for our clients and successful, where it kind of causes less stress, gives them time, and they're covering expenses for the buyer. And here's another win too that we find. Let's just say, we close in a normal 45-day transaction, they have 90 days, right? So here they're getting their proceeds out, they're cash rich,
now they're cash rich.
To do things, to cover moving costs, whatever they need to do, they have their down payment ready to make their purchase and close successfully.
And put them in a better position on their purchase side, absolutely. Yeah, I think this goes back to what we've talked about before, is just communication. Having this conversation with your agent and your attorney at the beginning, you can be really creative with use occupancy agreements. So you can make them fit what your special needs are for your purchase or sale.
And protect all parties and have a really great closing.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again, Katie. Great to see you, and we'll see you soon again.
Good.
All right.